Good evening. I would call to order the regular meeting of the Village of Westmont Planning and Zoning Commission for Wednesday, September 14th, 2022. May we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Van Buren is here. Commissioner Lavoy. Commissioner Thomas.
Here.
Commissioner Scales.
Here.
Commissioner Berry.
Here.
Commissioner Peterson.
Here.
And Chairman Carmichael.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Would everyone please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And while I have everyone standing, anyone who intends to testify this evening must be sworn in. So please raise your right hand and swear that any testimony you give tonight will be the whole truth. So help you God. Thank you. Thank you. And another reminder for everyone, please silence your phones and electronic devices. And we had one more gentleman walk in after Joe mentioned, sir, if you intend to testify tonight, okay, because I think everyone then has signed in who does intend to testify. Thank you. Next item is the approval of the minutes for our August 10th meeting. Do I assume everyone has gone over those minutes? Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved, Scales.
Second, Thomas.
We have a motion and second. Discussion of the item? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Commissioner Thomas.
Yes.
Commissioner Scales.
Yes.
Commissioner Berry.
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson.
Yes.
Commissioner Van Buren votes yes. And Chairman Carmichael.
Yes. Our next item is open forum. This is in case there's anyone here present who would like to address any issue to this commission that is not on tonight's agenda. This is your opportunity. You can come to the podium and speak on any subject. Seeing none, we'll move on. Before we get to our new business, I would review our public hearing procedures. First, we introduce the applicant, and he or she comes forward and with their petition and presents it. After that, our staff, village staff, will come in and make comments on the petition. Then it's the public's chance to address the board and the petitioner with questions and comments, and staff as well. And we have our village attorney with us for any consultation and guidance along the way. After the public is finished, then the commissioners get our chance to weigh in with questions and comments the same way, and followed hopefully with a vote. And a reminder that our vote is a recommendation to the village board, that our recommendation or vote against whatever the issue is not a final vote. Okay, under new business, we have a request from the Diocese of the Joliet and Holy Trinity Catholic Parish regarding the properties located at 111 South Cass Avenue for the following. Under three parts. First is the main parish campus, a request to be rezoned to R4 General Business District. The more common locations of this are 111 South Cass, 25 East Richmond, 108, 110, and 126 South Linden Avenue. Okay, under this first part, we have 8 separate issues to be discussed and voted on. First is a map amendment request to rezone from B1 Limited Business District and R3 Single Family Detached Residence District to R4 General Residence District. Next is a special use permit request for a religious institution. Third is a special use permit request for 2 electronic message board signs, which will replace 2 existing monument signs. Fourth is a zoning code variance request to allow existing non-conforming buildings to encroach into front yard, side yard adjoining street, and side yard and rear yard. Next is a zoning code variance request to allow a new parish center to encroach into the rear yard adjoining Linden Avenue. 6 is a zoning code variance request to increase the maximum allowable size and depth of a detached garage. Next is a preliminary plat of subdivision to consolidate multiple lots. And then a site and landscaping plan approval. The second part is from the main parish campus is the off-site parking lot. And that's zoned in the B1 Limited Business District at 137 South Cass. And there are 3 items to be discussed and voted on under that. First is a special use permit request to allow an off-site parking lot that serves the main parish campus. Second is a preliminary plat of subdivision to consolidate these lots. And third, a site and landscaping plan approval. And the third part is a combination of the main parish campus and the off-site parking lot. And that's one item, a zoning map amendment request to establish a planned development overlay district for all listed properties. Who will address this issue for the parish?
Yes, good evening, members of the commission. For the record, my name is Chris Lavoie. I'm the president of CM Lavoie and Associates, 633 Rogers Street in Downers Grove. And I'm here tonight representing the Holy Trinity Parish and the Diocese of Joliet for case 058-2022. Before I begin, I want to enter into the public record that I am currently a member of the Village of Westmont Planning and Zoning Commission, this very commission that we're here at tonight. As a part of my commitment as a commissioner, I agreed not to enter into any kind of professional service agreements for that might be considered a conflict of interest. Prior to entering into any agreement, I approached the village, and the village attorney and the village manager and the mayor granted me permission under certain conditions. And those conditions are that I would not have any input to this commission. I would not have any communication about this project other than with staff, and I would not have anything to do with any kind of vote either at this commission or moving forward. I am clearly on the other side now as a petitioner, and for this benefit of everyone here, I am acting on behalf of my client. So I was blessed to receive the permission from the village, and here we are tonight looking at a project and presenting a project that is very complex in its nature. But before I get into the details tonight, I have Father Raphael. Father, if you want to stand. Father Raphael is the pastor of Holy Trinity. He's been the pastor for many years and just received an extension for another 6 years to be with us as pastor of Holy Trinity. As you may already know, this project has been the dream of all Holy Trinity parishioners, their staff, and Father Raphael. The difference on this particular project is that these people have all made significant personal contributions towards their parish center over many years. Those contributions are both monetary and they're gifts of time, treasure, and talent. The other difference here is that this project is really a direct beneficiary, and the direct beneficiaries of the project are really our children and residents of Westmont. I also have tonight Dr. Simon, and Dr. Simon is, you can stand, she is the principal of Holy Trinity School. The one thing about this particular school is that there is no gymnasium. So it's a struggle for Dr. Simon and everyone here to have children come to Holy Trinity to put their kids through school here. It's a great school. It's one of the best in the area. However, there's a handicap here because they don't have the facilities that they need. So, and just a little history here, that our parish down in Darien, Our Lady of Peace, closed that school. And because of that closure, they had to get relocated. All the students had to go to a different location. Well, what they did is they went to St. Mary's and they went to St. Joe's in Downers Grove. Across the tracks, more difficult for parents, but a commitment here because of their commitment to their faith and having a parochial school and sending their kids to a parochial school. So that's something that out of 66 parishes in the Diocese of Joliet, I think that there might be one or two, this being one for sure, that does not have a facility like that on campus. So we share the facility now with the Park District, and we have a good working relationship with the Park District for their gym, but it's difficult. It's difficult to manage, it's difficult to handle. And not only from a gymnasium standpoint, but there's no parish center, so people, families can participate in ministry and church life and have different things going on, from funerals to weddings to whatever that might be at the church. So there's a definite handicap here with Holy Trinity. The other unique thing about Holy Trinity is that we are in the heart of downtown Westmont. So this is something that being a resident here, having all of my children, all of my 8 children go to school here, this is something that means a tremendous amount to not only the people here, their families, but their children. And it's something that we paid particular attention to all of these factors coming into the project. This project does include a new parish center and a gym, which is combined, a relocated storage garage, revisions to the campus parking, upgrades to the remote parking lot on Cass Avenue, and electronic signage. Our initial approach to the project was to find the best fit zoning classification based on both existing conditions and what we're proposing here tonight. As part of the project, we are essentially doing a cleanup, an administrative cleanup of current conditions, where we have underlying lots on campus that some are zoned in different zoning classifications, like Mr. Chairman said, some are in R3, some are in R4. But as part of this, we are doing an administrative task to, one, consolidate all those lots into one lot on the main campus and rezoning them into the best fit. And that best fit was an R4. And what drove that decision, we worked with staff on that, we worked with the village attorney on that, that we felt that that was the least amount of resistance here, the least amount of requests to be put in front of you to actually move forward. When you look at this site plan, as you can see here tonight, it really doesn't look like it's that difficult, but all the underlying issues related to non-compliance is an issue. So, for example, one of the things that was brought up to me even today, so everyone here knows, is if something happened to the church, for example, and either by storm or a hurricane or whatever, well, not a hurricane, but a tornado, something happened to that building, well, the setback issues are really in violation of the existing building. So we need to get this administratively taken care of. So we basically have put together a package that addresses the history, addresses all the lots, the underlying zoning, and then we worked towards getting, once we had that base set, what requests will be needed from not only this commission, but the trustees. So this project does include that off-site parking. It includes also that electronic signage. So moving forward, our R4 designation does make us go through this very challenging process, and I applaud Joe on staff, because all of these little details, all of the details that are all listed in the zoning code as it relates to our site, not only the new but the old, have to be addressed. And that's why you see the list of variations and special uses and that kind of thing. And for the audience, I mean, you hear Mr. Chairman say that we're asking for a special use for the church here? Well, it's because it never existed before. So we have to ask for these things, so we have a good baseline moving forward, and we have all the approvals necessary to operate the parish and be compliant with code issues related to the village of Westmont. The highlights of the project include an upgrade to that remote parking lot, and we all know where that is. It's something that we feel that, and staff directed us, we feel that it was non-compliant from the standpoint of the drive aisles didn't meet code, the parking spaces didn't meet code, the landscaping didn't meet code. So what we've done is we've put together a plan that really best fits what we can get, and we're very close to meeting code. We have a couple of parking spaces that are not to code on the space size, but we will handle that under another method to go to the board with. It won't be done here. So there's a couple things related to the building that we'll go directly to the trustees with. Another really highlight to the project here is that there was a lot of input related to the design and where the building goes, where the parking goes, and what happens, and not only that, but how it relates to our downtown with the streetscape that we have going on, especially here in downtown Westmont. We felt strongly about offsetting the building and pushing it back to give this more of a campus look and not have the building right up on Cass Avenue. So we set this back to soften this entry to the downtown area. The other components that come into play here on the design are the way that this building functions, the way it functions with school activities, the way it functions without school activities. So let's say that there's people that come here at night when the school is closed. I mean, how do we accommodate that? So the position of the building was really dictated by several factors. One is to maintain security in the school for sure and keep our kids safe. Two was to address the parking. And by the way, with the changes to the parking, I think we lost 24 spaces?
We're around there.
25 parking spaces. So to bring it up to code, we lost 25 spaces in the remote lot. So with that, the parking lot in front of the Parish Center where the current garage is was expanded because we really can't afford to give up that many spaces. And looking at the overall presentation here, that we're actually in compliance with the code related to the number of parking spaces. But we feel that it's necessary to get as many as we can. So the position of the building was kicked back towards Linden, and that was really directed also as part of the design, the way that the building is connected to the existing school. The way the building is connected to the school is through a corridor, and Chris, could you point that out on that site plan? So that crossover that is identified there falls into a central corridor within the school and can be isolated from the school. So the school can still be secured, but the parish center could be open and the parking lot to the north in the courtyard could be used. So we're trying to facilitate traffic and pedestrian traffic for the use of this new building. So we have the ability to function both as a school building and we have the ability to function as a non-school building, that people can come in from the parking lot directly into the main entrance, which you can see on the west elevation. The other design limitation here was in the corner, Chris, maybe you can help me out one more time, is that that crossover where that is between the proposed building and the existing school has an entrance to the basement level, which has an external staircase, which can't be obstructed. That goes into the boiler room, and we need to make sure that that remains open. So with all of those things as far as parking and boiler room exit and connection to the existing school, we were narrowing down the position of where this building could actually go. One other component here is that when you look at pedestrian traffic and the way the kids come into school and the teachers come into school now, they come in off of Linden. And if there's a basketball game, they're gonna come in from, the visiting team will come in from Linden. So what we have is a courtyard, and Chris, help yourself there. We have a courtyard that, a connection that you can actually enter into that crossover corridor without entering the school. So people can come in and the school stays secure. So there were all these design parameters that come into play about where the building could go. And then, of course, the size of the gym is based on current IHSA standards. So we had a pretty good fit of size and where this building could go and how it could relate to the existing facilities here.
I'm just, you said a visiting team would be coming in from Linden, the east side. Why wouldn't they come in from Cass
They
with the
could.
parking lot?
They could.
Oh, I see. They
Yeah.
could do either way.
They could do either way.
Thank you.
But what they're used to is the use of the Park District gym. So I think there's gonna be, and over time, people are gonna get used to this. But someone could come in that either for a funeral or whatever, and come in off of Linden, and, or any other function, any other ministries could come in that way. If there's a meeting on the second level of the new building, they could come in that way if they're from that side of town. So it gives them those options. So with that, the reduction of the parking on the remote lot and the expansion of the new lot, we have gone through and we've looked at setbacks and all the variations at the A through L, is it, on your package? Those are the requests that we're asking for. And I'll touch base on a couple other things here tonight. One is the building appearance, that if you look closely, we're really trying to emulate the church building and make this look like a campus building. That this has a lot of similar characteristics to the building as the existing church and then the new part of the school that was rebuilt several years ago. And the other issue that we have in front of you tonight that we think that we have these electronic signs that are in your package. And our intent here is to, number one, of course I remember because I was part of the process with the junior high school sign, and to have those same limitations, that we don't want it bright, we don't want it to have a movie, if you will. It's only gonna be the pixels and actually sign information. And we would limit the nighttime use, and we will do whatever staff recommendations would be to address the photometrics of that sign. And we would actually need to engage that sign company and then work through a sign permit to actually get that done. So we are sensitive to it. I know we are. We were sensitive to it at the high school. So we think that that's really an important part of the project, because we're highly visible on Cass Avenue. That location of that sign, a lot of people go past that sign. And the other component here is that I would expect that we have a lot more pedestrian traffic here in downtown because we have a lot more people downtown. It's expanding and getting at a higher density. So we would hope that our invitation to come to Holy Trinity would be out there continuously and knowing that everyone is welcome. So we have worked through a lot of details with staff. I rest my case with you. I request your approval and your positive recommendation for the variations and for the project as presented. And I'll leave you with one last thing, and that is the fly around.
That's them out.
Just to give you a better understanding of what this would be, you can look at it on your screens, is that this is actually a representation of what this would look like completed.
Landscaping too?
Landscaping is a representation. The
Okay.
landscaping that's in your package is what the village has reviewed, and we've addressed comments and done all of this. Is really a rendering that was done prior to going through all of those comments.
Understood.
And the garage as shown here is also misrepresented, but it gives you an idea of what this building will be, the big building will be like. And I did forget the garage, so I have to mention that. And you can see here on the video that we're gonna go down that corridor where this walk is gonna be, where you can see the access that you can get to from Linden. And this doorway will be the crossover from the new building to the old. I forgot to mention the garage, so I gotta talk
Yeah,
about
would
that
you
a little bit.
talk a little bit about the house and the garage, particularly
Yes,
the garage?
I skipped over that because I was not taking my notes here. I just like to ad-lib the thing and like explain it myself a little better. Anyway, one of the things that we had to do, looking at the project the way it is today, is that the existing garage not the existing house garage, but the existing garage for the rectory on Cass Avenue, if you look at it closely, it's misaligned. It doesn't fit too well with the way the parking geometry is, and it really takes up a lot of space because of that. So we felt that the garage is really an integral part of the campus, and we can't lose that space, that storage space. So I think that the best thing to open up this site as a campus approach and make it look beautiful coming down Cass Avenue is to put the garage where we can use it not only for the current use, but use it as an accessory building for the Parish Center, for storage and that kind of thing. So we have in front of you tonight, part of this would be a new reconstructed building that would be an accessory use to the Parish Center that would house Father's car, the tractor, all of the facilities maintenance, the mower, that kind of thing. And it may, we may put tables and chairs, but it would be unoccupied. It would not be something, I don't even think it would be heated. So it's an outdoor storage building that we're gonna make look good. As in your package, we have an elevation and we have information in there. But we've positioned it so it's not gonna be visible from Cass. We've put it behind the existing house, which is owned by the diocese. And we're replacing a garage that's already there. Now, our request here includes a larger size of building there. But we feel that based on, if you look at this, I know you've all driven past it, the new building, the new residential building right next door, it's almost like David and Goliath, okay? It's much, much larger than the house on 126 South Linden. So it's a one-story building. It's landscaped within the easement area already now. There's buffer material in there now. And we don't feel that that's gonna be a problem with with the neighbors at all, because their house is really very large. So this is gonna be an expanded garage. It's really necessary because they have so much jammed in that garage in the front. And we've included that in our package because it's really, I can expand the parking. It all stems down to, this all snowballs of losing the parking in the remote lot, and where can I gain those back, and how can I gain them back, and how can I gain that space, and that's the best solution for that particular garage. So with that, now I'll rest my case and take your questions.
All right, thank you. Staff, comments, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've got my work cut out for me. I'll try not to be too technical because I know that most people in the audience don't deal with what we deal with every day. So I encourage that if anyone misunderstands me, I'm happy to explain as best I can. So I'll try to stay technical enough for my commission, but not too technical for everyone that's here. And unfortunately, I have to go through every item in some detail. However, I'm going to try to be abbreviated. If anyone requests more detail, I'm happy to elaborate. I could probably talk all night if necessary. So at its simplest, what is here before us is we have an existing, we call it a campus, but basically the Holy Trinity school, church, and many other small buildings, rectory, wants to build a new gymnasium. And over time, I mean, Holy Trinity's been on this site, I think, since the 30s. And first off, a lot of our codes and regulations didn't exist back then. And they exist now, such things as special uses for religious institutions. And probably over the history of construction, you know, we've deferred a lot of the housekeeping type approvals because it has been there for so long. So this project is of a magnitude that it's time to clean up a lot of the things that we never properly approved. Not only so that on the books, everything is squared away in terms of an approval, but as the petitioner indicated, also to secure the private property rights so that if there was a property that's damaged, that it can be rebuilt without too much debate about whether it should be moved when it gets rebuilt. So first, a couple things I want to go over is we talk about zoning. So this property is what we call split zoned, and actually there's two properties in question. There's the remote lot and the main campus. So hopefully I don't confuse anyone because we're going to go back and forth a little bit. The main campus, which is what's mostly depicted on the map that the petitioner has brought before us, is zoned on the Cass Avenue side as B1, which is our downtown zoning. And then on the Linden Avenue side is zoned R3, which is our single-family residential zoning. And just over time, as the property grew and expanded, we've never addressed the fact that the zoning was split. And that it shouldn't be like that. So the first discussion was, okay, well, what should it be rezoned to? Because we've got two zonings here, B1 and R3. So are either one of those appropriate, or is a different zoning appropriate? So the petitioner did work with staff, and our first reaction was, well, okay, what are the uses that are going on here, and what are these uses allowed in the B1 or the R3? And what we discovered right away is that schools are not allowed in the B1 zoning, not even by special request. So we said, well, you know, B1's not really appropriate. R3 zoning allows schools. It allows religious institutions as special uses. And we said, well, what about R3? Because already half of this is zoned R3. And then we looked up and down Cass. And we have no R3 zoning up and down Cass. On Cass Avenue, we zone everything that's residential R4. Because Cass Avenue is a main thoroughfare. That's where you typically want higher intensity housing. Now, obviously, there's no housing going on here, but we're trying to figure out what the right zoning is. And so with the petitioner, we said, you know what? The most appropriate zoning for this property is R4. So that's what the request is tonight. Now, this is only the main campus is being requested to R4. The remote lot is currently zoned B1, our downtown zoning. Well, the remote lot has really no use other than parking. There's no need to rezone that to residential. So we're perfectly fine with that staying B1 downtown zoning, and we didn't ask them to rezone that as well. So usually rezonings are guided by our comprehensive plan. In this case, our comprehensive plan does not address this situation. So we're using our best intellect, our best look at the way zoning is supposed to operate, and we feel this is appropriate on a staff level. Next, we're making them combine this into all one lot. Right now, there are 18 underlying lots. Now, that might not be complicated to the diocese or the church because they have ownership of all those lots. But for normal property owners, if you didn't pay taxes on one of those lots, someone can swoop in and buy that lot out from under you, and then suddenly we've got a building sitting on a lot that is owned by someone else. So we always, on any of our projects, say we need to clean up these lot lines. So we said we need to combine this into one lot. Now, it might seem a little bit awkward that we're combining that single-family house on Linden. The reason we're doing that is because they want to place that garage there. So that garage that's serving the campus is on the lot of the house, so we say you have to combine it. And in their narrative, they do speak to how they use that house. It does serve some purpose to the parish endeavors. So it can be appropriate. It's okay if someone lives there if they lease it out, just like it's okay that someone lives in the rectory. This property allows that. When you combine everything into one lot, then we have to scratch our heads and say, well, what's the front of the lot? What's the side of the lot? What's the rear of the lot? Because this is bordered on 3 sides by streets. Does it have 3 front yards and 1 backyard, or how do we address that? And it wasn't an easy thing. We had to work with the attorney and say what's right and wrong here. And we arrived at the decision that the Cass Avenue side is the front yard, that the Richmond side is a side yard adjoining a street, and that the Linden side, because you have to have a rear yard, and rear is always opposite front, that Linden becomes the rear yard. So when we talk about setbacks, we're talking about setbacks based on how we're now defining what the yards are. I'll get into the variance request, but that's a lot of where the variance requests come into play. So otherwise, as the petitioner stated, parking, we always analyze parking and uses. And although I think there is a very good discussion of, will all these uses actually be occurring at once? Will a church service be going on the same day as school's in session and they've rented out the space for a wedding? First off, I think that's very rare, if not impossible. However, we look at all the parking for all the uses and we add it all up at once. And when you add all that up, they need 142 parking spaces if every one of those uses was used at the same time. Now, they're providing 160 spaces. So they're in excess of what we require if all the uses were going at the same time. Now, if they were deficient, the way that the code reads, it says that the Planning and Zoning Commission can approve their parking count without a variance if they can accept that one use will not be occurring at the same time. But we don't even need to discuss that. But I think there's a good argument that they won't be used at the same time. And when we use 160 spaces, we are not including those spaces along Linden, because those are technically village spaces. But I believe those are used as well whenever they have those activities. So there is overflow parking within proximity. But we can discuss parking if you want to. There's just no variance that's required in this. So, moving on to the entitlement requests. We're going to deal with the main parish campus first. So first is that zoning map amendment. I think I've covered that, so I'm not going to go into much more in-depth on that at all. The second is a special use permit for a religious institution. So our requirements for a special use for religious institutions came in much later than the parish. The parish predates our code. So when we amend our code and say, well, we need special uses to be approved for these types of uses. We don't go knock on everyone's door and say, you never got a special use approval 30 years ago, can you please get one? But this type of project requires us to solidify one. Now, the petitioner has, in their executive summary, responded to all of our special use standards for any special use and responded to all the findings of facts for any variance requests. I'm not going to go over them specifically, but they have been provided to us. And then I think our attorneys have provided the findings of fact to the commission as well, which I think everyone got in advance and has reviewed. So we can scrutinize all of those special use standards, such as parking congestion and other things for the church, but I think the luxury we have here is this is not a use that we don't understand. We understand this use because it's been there for quite some time. I do think that if anyone wants to raise a question on how does this new building affect the existing operations, that's a valid question. And the petitioner has addressed some of that already. Next, there's a special use permit request for 2 electronic message board signs. So this is not a situation that we're trying to deal with something that's already there and then make an approval for it. This is a new request. So they have 2 message board signs that are on the property now. And they're the old time where you change the letters one by one. Obviously, technology has come a great distance since those types of signs are done. Religious institutions in residential districts can request electronic message board signs as a special use. If this were a business in the B2 zoning, they could get an electronic message board sign without a special use because they're in a commercial zoning district. The difference here is they are in a residential district. And because they're in a residential district, there might be impacts to the residential district. That's why we make this a special use. So each one of those signs can be debated if you'd like to. There's one that faces Cass. That's obviously our main corridor. That is the commercial corridor. I don't believe that there's any other residences that have viewing of this sign. But there is a few houses on Richmond that will be able to see the sign on Linden. The petitioner has indicated that there are lots of rules and measures in effect when they get a sign permit to try to limit effects of lighting. And it's an imperfect science. So basically, we require that that sign have the capability to automatically dim at night. We have that it have the capability to go and fiddle with the dimmability, so it's not all automatic. So if it's still too bright, you can make it dimmer. We have lots of rules, such as you can only change it over once every, I think, 5 seconds. Thank you. I got a lot of information up here, so. But once every 5 seconds, that you can't do live video, that it can't show moving. Now, I've got a lot of members of the public here, and they can probably point to 20 other message board signs in the village that show movement. None of those are in compliance. And it's very easy for any business, including the church, to flip a switch on those signs, and then suddenly everything moves, because they're all pre-programmed. So if anyone says, well, why are you limiting us, but you're letting everyone else do it? Technically, everyone else is not allowed to be doing it. And a lot of those signs did get built before the current codes are in effect, so they may have been grandfathered in. But there's all these rules and measures for electronic message board signs, and we can debate any one of these because it is a new request that's before us. There is zoning code variances, and I've kind of grouped these all together. These are basically for existing buildings, and because of this new zoning district and the new way we're defining what the front yard is, it means that some of these buildings now are sitting where we would not allow them to be built today. So the church on the Richmond Street side is only 5.31 feet from the property line. A 28-foot setback is required. So one might say, wow, 28 versus 5, that's a big difference. But there's no change that's happening. What it is redefine the way we're looking at it. The school sits 24 0.51 feet from Richmond, when it would still require that 28. So it's it's much better to compliance, but it's still not 28 feet. It is 24.39 feet from Linden. That's the rear yard. That requires 33 feet, so it doesn't meet the 33. And then that single-family home sits 4.91 feet from the south property line, when the setback there that would be required is 15 feet. So you might say, why are they asking for this? And what happens when we do these kind of changes without a variance is they become legal nonconforming. And what that means is that we're not going to do anything about it today. However, if there's a disaster that causes damage more than 50% of the value, then we can ask them to rebuild it to that setback. So I use that single-family home as an example. If that house had a fire and it was damaged more than 50%, and they came to us and said, we'd like to rebuild this, we'd say, well, no, we want you to tear the whole thing down and move it so it's 15 feet away. The variances being requested are basically saying, listen, because we're redefining setbacks, we really don't want to have to move these buildings if something happens to them. We want to be able to rebuild them. That is what these requests are. So we have to process a variance for each one so that in perpetuity, they can keep that there regardless of what happens to the property. Now, we can debate those if you want to, but this is not part of what their construction is. The next one is a variance request for the new Parish Center. So the new Parish Center is a new building. You can debate this as much as you want. It is 15.78 feet from Linden, where 33 feet is required. Now, the petitioner has expressed why he's placed the building where it is, and those are basically his justifications for where it is. That's his response to the findings of fact. You as commissioners can analyze, well, what is the effect on the community? What is the effect on the property? I always try to give you an indication. So the church to the north of this building is about 25 feet from Linden. The house to the south of the building is about 35 feet from Linden. This is about 15 feet from Linden. So is it closer? Yes. Do you feel it's in line with the neighborhood and community and park facilities across the street? That is for you to discuss if you want and debate if you want. There is the parking that is along Linden that is village property. There is a sidewalk that is on church property, and then there is about 10 feet to where this building is, and this building to the peak on the backside is about 37 feet tall. I think that the flyover and the renderings give a good dimensional understanding of the impact, but because this is a new building, it's not the same as those other variance requests. There is kind of a double variance request for the garage. We allow garages of 576 square feet, and we allow them to be no longer than 28 feet in depth and length. So I don't know exactly why we limit the depth and length, except maybe we were trying to keep people from storing motorhomes. I don't know where the impetus of that code is. However, because this campus has higher demands than a typical residential lot, they have asked basically for a garage twice the size and 48 feet in depth. So 1,152 square feet is what they're asking for their garage. That is also a new structure, so that is perfectly debatable as well. There is a preliminary plat of subdivision to consolidate the lots. So that's kind of a mechanical process, the first step process to combine everything into one lot. The one thing I do want to make mention of is that there are a few outstanding corrections to the drawings that are shown for us tonight. If we are to approve that, we would ask that the commission do an amended vote that allows that correction to occur after the vote before it goes to village board. Staff was comfortable with them presenting tonight with this, I'll call them mistakes that are still existing. So if you're going to make a recommendation tonight, you also have to give staff the ability to revise the drawing before it goes to the board.
Is that a special vote, or is that part of?
No, it's when you come to make the motion, someone should make an amended motion to accept revisions as staff has stated or recommended before it goes to the board. So basically, rather than just a standard, can I have a motion on this to approve, someone should say, I make a motion, and Kevin can correct me because he's more technical than I am. But basically, a motion, an amended motion that allows staff to update the drawings to village board. So I'll remind you when that time comes. Really, there's no other comments other than the fact that they are taking 18 lots and combining them into one, which is securing things for them legally, and it makes it easier for us. Then there's a site and landscape approval, because this is in the R4 district. Anything in the R4 district requires site landscape approval. We've had a couple of projects like this come before us where it's an existing project, not a complete new redevelopment. So we try to get them in closer compliance with our code without pounding our fist and saying you have to do everything in compliance. So we don't look at the landscaping that's around the church or the landscaping that's around the school. We look at the landscaping that's around the parking lot revisions and this new parish center, and they have met the requirements of the landscaping plan. What is not met are a couple waivers that will have to be requested to the board. So we have a strict masonry requirement for all commercial buildings. This is a commercial building. It looks like masonry, it looks like brick because it's brick veneered, but it's not constructed out of concrete block. So they will have to make that request to the board to have a non-masonry building. The other thing that they have to request is a waiver to our parking stall sizes. The parking spaces that are at the south end of the parking lot are about 2 feet short to what we like to see. They are not out of character to some of typical requests we get. But since they're reconfiguring everything, we said you had to ask for a waiver like anyone else would have to. So there is a waiver request for that one. So that is the main campus lot. I can continue on, or I can pause for questions. How would you like me to go? Continue?
I would say continue.
Okay. Have I lost anybody out here yet? Okay. Okay, now we're going to talk about the off-site parking lot. This is much simpler. First off, there's a special use permit because when you have a standalone parking lot with no other use, we make anyone get a special use permit for that. So I think we required the village to get a special use permit for the new parking lot up here on Lincoln. We made ourselves get one because it's a standalone parking lot. So you can analyze traffic and other concerns about a parking lot. This obviously has existed here for many, many years. The use is not changing at all, but we can always debate that. What it is we're putting on the books that there was never an approval for this, and we're going to ask that it be approved tonight.
Can you address you said there were two parking spots at the east end of that weren't in compliance or something? I didn't understand that.
There are actually more, but here, give me a second. Chris, do you have in your
It's
presentation?
easier for you to put up
Okay.
on the screen.
When I get to that,
All right.
I'm
You'll
going to
address
have
it.
to ad lib because I'm going to pull it out of my staff report. Well, actually, give me a second. I'm going to use the plan that has the landscape plan. Dennis, can we switch over to the overhead? Okay. So this is the church parking lot. This is not what we're looking at. We're looking at this one here. What it is right now, there are 90-some parking spaces in that parking lot. It doesn't meet the drive aisle requirements. It doesn't meet the parking stall dimensions. It doesn't have curbs around it. It's actually kind of skewed a little bit cattywampus. I'll let who's doing minutes tonight spell that in the minutes. But basically, there's nothing great about the parking lot, because basically it got paved over many, many years ago with no rules or regulations. They are doing their very best to try to meet drive aisle dimensions, which they meet, and then parking stall sizes. And in general, I would say 90% of the spaces are a little bit too small. By a little bit too small, our engineer always evaluates the parking spaces, and he is comfortable to say he's comfortable with their waiver request. Just trying to get this in better compliance, they've lost about 25 spaces. So they've lost a significant amount of parking. If we held every parking space to our dimensional standards, they'd probably lose 50 spaces. So we're trying to work our best with an existing condition and bring it into better compliance. So it'll be better drive aisles, it'll be better movements through the parking lot. They've added a couple islands with landscaping. They're completely landscaping around the perimeter of the parking lot. So they are making significant strides to bring this in better compliance. And because it's existing as really poor and getting much better, we don't have to process a variance to every detail, but the one we have to do, because they are reconfiguring it, is that they are asking for a waiver to the parking stall sizes.
Right. Thank you.
The other thing, just like the main lot, it sits on 3 lots, so we're asking them to consolidate it into 1 lot. In this case, we don't need an amended motion on this one because the plans as represented are good to go. And then finally, that site and landscaping approval, which basically codifies the landscape that they install, and then they make that variance or the waiver request to the board for parking stall sizes. Okay, my voice is almost gone. There's one more request that's here before us, and that is that both these sites, both the main parish parking lot, the main parish campus and the remote parking lot, are overlaid as a planned development. Now, many weeks ago, you may have been saying, Joe, why are you trying to train us so much on this stuff like planned development? It's in preparation for projects like this. So what is a planned development? I'll give you a quick reminder. It's a contract with the village. Now, most of that contract is saying there are so many special uses that have been approved and so many variances that have been approved. But there are a couple other things that the village is getting out of this. The petitioner didn't mention it, but I want to mention it. That sidewalk that's along Linden Avenue is actually on their property, but it's our sidewalk. We've just been maintaining it, and it's on their property. They're giving us an easement that gives us rights to fix that sidewalk. They're granting us an easement on Richmond to reconfigure along the church and the church entry along Richmond, because if you've never noticed, the alignment of Richmond at Cass is a little bit off. When you are on Richmond at the traffic light going east, waiting to cross Cass, if you look, there's ever so slightly a jog to the north. So they're granting us an easement to make some corrections, including a little triangle patch at the corner, so that we can kind of push the traffic pole a little bit off to the side. So that contract, that plan development, that is one of the things that we're getting out of this. So the petitioner has made concessions to acknowledge that this is an old property that developed before a lot of the stuff around us developed, and they're trying to remediate as best they can. I think I've covered everything I want to cover. I'm sure I didn't cover all of your questions, and there's a lot of public here just in case they want to speak, but as always, staff is here for any questions.
Excellent. Now, is there anyone from the public who would like to address the commission on this issue? Good evening.
Evening. Thank you for your time. My name's Steve Riedel. I live at 151 Washington Court here in Westmont. We have made Westmont our home for over 25 years. My wife and I live here. We've raised our 2 boys here. We've been actively involved in village life for the last 25 years. I've coached biddy basketball, boxball, soccer, baseball, t-ball through majors. With Holy Trinity, I've been on school board, finance council, Parish Center committee, and serve as the varsity basketball coach. So we've been very involved in the fabric of the community. What I've seen in my years with Holy Trinity is that when we host our annual fundraiser, the dinner dance, we have it at the Carlisle in Lombard. We have it at the Drake in Oak Brook. We have it at, one year, the Barn in Clarendon Hills before that shut down. Our home basketball and volleyball games are at Christ the King in Lombard. We don't have space here in Westmont. We have raised, as a community, over $4 million to fund this project. That has been 100% privately raised. We have not come to the village and asked for any dollars. If you'd like to donate, we'd be happy to take it. The benefits of the Parish Center for Holy Trinity are clear. A gym for the school kids so that they can play sports and have recess indoors on the school grounds. An event center for our fundraisers and other parish events. Conference rooms for various parish ministries. And basically a space to come together as a parish. The benefits for the village of Westmont, I believe, are clear as well. A full-size high school gymnasium for a village that is short on gym space. I believe there's only one high school-sized gymnasium in the entire village. A multi-use event center that can host events, village events, with over 250 people. Weddings, funerals, whatever needs to be held. Basically, a place to come together as a broader community. Personally, I would rather have an event at Holy Trinity in our own space and cater it with absolutely delicious or neat or dolces or Uncle Bub's. I'd rather have sports where we bring people in from other towns and afterwards they go out for lunch or for dinner in Westmont restaurants. I'd like to keep Westmont dollars in Westmont. I'd like Westmont to strengthen the spirit of fellowship throughout the Westmont community. So I really feel passionately about this project, and I'm hopeful that you will accept all of the recommendations that you've heard here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening and thank you, and I promise to make it brief. They know me well. I'm Wally Gillette, Naperville Road. 32 years ago, I went through a lot of this, building a 3-flat in town, but we did it. We did it. The nitty-gritty has to be done, but we got it done. I've been in Westmont 42 years now and with the parish of Holy Trinity for 42 years. I am so proud of this parish. They're a hard-working parish. I feel bad that a lot of people that wanted to see this community center done many, many years ago are long gone, but then they were older than me when I came into town. But we're so close now. The Archdiocese of Joliet has approved everything. Now it's up to the board to go through what we listened to tonight to see if we can get past some of the stuff that has to be worked out. It's a big project, but I think it can be done, because without a doubt, there's been a lot of pastors that have come and gone wanting to do the same thing. Now we've got our pastor, Father Raffel, and he's bound determined, the young man that he is, he's gonna see this done, and I'm sure we can do it. The center, of course, has been said, I don't want to repeat over and over, it's got a lot of possibilities. And especially with the school fundraising that we've been doing outside, now we can do inside. And there's money that could go to the school instead of renting a hall and whatever. The parish members have wanted for a very, very long time to have this done. And now we're so close. Hopefully, the board can work things out and get approved, go on to the board with the village board and let them approve it. And amen, we've got a community center. Thank you for your time.
Certainly.
Good evening. My name is Hank Anzalone. Me and my wife moved into this village 50 years ago, almost today. And we're very proud of all the things that have happened here in Westmont. And with Holy Trinity, I could go through a litany of all the different things that I have been involved in with the community, with the parish, the food pantry, etc., but there's no need to. I own the house that's right across the street from Holy Trinity, 18 East Richmond. I'm really the only resident that's really adjacent. My next door neighbor, Steph Uke, it sort of is on an angle from it, but mine is the only real house that's impacted. And I have no problem with this. I would love to see this project get done. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
And thank you, Hank. It answers one of my questions about the impact of this electronic message board on Linden with the homes on the north side of Richmond there, and that's you. So.
Yeah, that's me. and John and his wife and stuff. So,
all right, thank you.
We're the only ones.
Good evening. My name is Paul Barudis. Full name is Polis, but that's Lithuanian. I live at 7809 Adams Street. I'm actually a resident of Darien, but all three of my children have gone through Holy Trinity. Hopefully Dr. Simon, the last one, will finish this year. I really got involved pretty intensely into the parish because I thought, wow, what a neat community. And what I wanted to make you aware of is we did a parish census 2014 years ago, and it defined itself through a research instrument as the People's Church. And what I really am excited about, you heard Steve briefly speak about, the impact this could have on the community. And I want to reiterate something the bishop told us 3 years ago. If you're building me another building to have another gym, I don't need more gyms, I don't need more buildings. If you think you're going to contribute to the community, sell the furniture. So I think it's really important that you heard some of the comments on school passerbys, not seeing the facility, not seeing the capability to withhold the school. That's one, but I think the greater cause and the greater good, and I said this at all our donation meetings, the good people are going to win something. And I think it's great that Westmont has an opportunity, not only what Steve said, to attract the people downtown, but to be proud of something that is a multi-use facility. And actually, Steve, I'll go one step, 320 people can be seated at a dinner. So I just wanted to reiterate and thank you for your time and hope you'll vote in favor. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to? Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Ray Wachowski. I live at 128 8th Street, Clarendon Hills. I am the current Grand Knight of the Knights of Columbus here in Westmont. I've been a parishioner of Holy Trinity now for about 7 years, coming into the community. It has been quite apparent that we were in desperate need of a parish center, a multi-use center. As we see the Quincy station coming online, that is another opportunity for us to grow the community and for us to grow the parish as well. The parish center will serve as an asset to the community. I think it's a multi-function use, attracts and benefits everyone, not only the parish, but also the community as well. Having the ability to attract more foot traffic into the downtown Westmont area enhances the business possibilities for Westmont itself. As the Grand Knight from Knights of Columbus, we strongly support this activity and this project. And again, I want to thank everyone for your time.
Thank you. Going once, going twice. Okay, now it's our turn. Commissioner Van Buren, would you like to start?
Yes,
Yeah, and Chris, you just come to the podium.
I trust a professional a commissioner, and being a professional, and our staff having gone through all of the details on consolidating and getting everything defined to do that was right, and so I'm fully comfortable with that. And the main thing is I'm sure to all of you, is the building. I think it's a great facility. I think it's been well presented, and I'm all for it. I don't want to go through each one of these items. They've already been gone through both by Chris and by Joe, so I'm all for it.
Thank you. Commissioner Thomas?
Again, I echo the presentation. You knew what you were looking for. You were ready for that guy over there who usually sits where you sit, and he asks the tough questions, and you were ready for him. And again, like I say every month, staff did a great job. And when you and Chris work together, you come prepared. And I fully support it. And very good. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner
Welcome.
Thomas.
Commissioner Peterson?
I like the project. I've heard it being called, though, a parish center and a community center. And I was trying to look, it's actually on the building, it's gonna say parish center.
Yes.
You wouldn't consider saying community. It just,
No.
my thing is parish center makes it sound like it's for the church, but from what I understand is that non-affiliated people and organizations can use that center?
Correct.
Okay. But I don't have any problems with it. I'm a little biased. I grew up like a block from there, so I'm used to the church and the school and everything being close to the sidewalks. I know that was a big thing here, you know, on the setbacks, but I think anyone who's familiar with Westmont doesn't even pay attention to any of that, because it's been here since I was a kid, and that's like a real long time ago. So I like the project a lot. The garage is a little big, but I understand that there's a lot of stuff, and I'm really happy for the kids, you know, that they'll actually have a gym, because I'm a big proponent of exercise and gym classes and all that stuff. So I really like the project. It's a great project. I think it'll look great there, and I'm definitely in favor of it.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Peterson. And I'll make one comment to follow up with her testimony. Sometimes when you look at all of the complexities of the criteria that we need to get approved, sometimes you have to weigh things. You have to weigh out the position of the building versus what's on the other side of the street. What's on the other side of the street? Well, it's a park, and there's no other building over there other than a gym, which is as tall, I think, as what we're proposing. So, you know, you have to weigh out things. You know, we ask for, you know, the variations of parking sizes and that kind of thing. Well, do I take away the landscape buffers, for example, and make the size of the parking spaces comply? Or do I do what we think is right, and that is get the buffer there, because the buffer's more important. So we have to weigh these things sometimes. The position of the building, the position of the parking, and we have to blend it so between staff and all of us on the design team, we come up with the best overall solution. And that's what's taken time to work through all of these details. It's been a very long process, and we think that this is the best for Westmont and the best for the community.
Thank you. Commissioner Scales?
Sure, thank you. Congratulations on raising the funds necessary to get to this point. I'm sure that's very exciting for everyone, and thanks for the presentation, Chris. I just had a couple of quick questions.
Sure.
Regarding that garage and the landscape plan, and shame on me for not checking this out first, but what's between, I see no like proposal for any trees or brush or shrubs or anything. What's there now? Is there a fence there between between the house and the proposed garage?
There's between the existing house and the existing garage, it's just landscaping.
The
just
proposed new
grass.
garage though, right? Because
Yeah.
you're building the larger garage on the south
Yes.
side, okay.
So we're landscaping and we're putting a crosswalk there so we can bring things into the Parish Center. So it's an accessory building, but it's also gonna provide, a normal garage function for various things to store things in. And there is an existing garage there now.
Right, smaller
So
one.
it's, we feel that this is gonna be tucked away, and it's gonna be really not of any consequence to anyone.
Okay, I was just curious what was there, what was in
Yeah.
between there. Thank you.
Commissioner Scales, may I interject? So our landscaping requirements require foundation landscapings around primary buildings. That's why you see a lot of landscaping around the new building. It requires landscaping around parking lots. That's why you see a lot of landscaping around the parking lot. There is no requirement for landscaping around an accessory building.
Got it, okay.
Now, it doesn't mean you can't ask for it, but that is why none is proposed.
That's fine, I was just curious. Yeah, thank you for that, thank you for the clarification. And I think Joe, it's fair to say most of these variances and special use, I mean, because you're cleaning up the zoning, a lot of this is just really overall cleanup and anyway.
For the most part, like I indicated, I think that the signage, because that's new, basically anything that's really new. The signage, because that's new. The building location, because that's new. The parking lots, we're trying to deal with existing conditions and make it better. And then obviously the garage, because that's new.
Right.
Now, we can debate everything if we want to.
No, I think, personally, I think it's great.
But when,
Good to have the
in
cleanup.
staff's view, it's a much simpler project than it is on paper.
Right.
On paper, it's very complicated.
Sure. No, I agree. And then you mentioned, yeah, and you kind of answered the question, but there was some corrections on the plat, minor stuff that just go over when,
The preliminary plan, which is what we call the preliminary plat, just has a few little corrections. It doesn't have all the details that we wanted to see on it. So we asked, can you get that revised between, like, assuming it gets approved tonight, can you get those revisions to us before it goes to the board? And they acknowledge they can. And then the actual, there's an easement on the corner that's not yet shown on the final plat, and the final plat was a part of your drawings, but that's not something that we approve here. So it's just there for representation, so they will need to make a correction to that final plat as well, and then the board considers the final plat.
okay,
So-
very good.
But I just can't, I am not authorized to show you drawings, have you vote on those drawings, and then go and change them before they go to the board unless the commission authorizes me to change them. So,
Fair enough. Okay. I guess lastly, you're getting rid of the garage. Where will you sell the Christmas trees? That's all I have. Thank you.
Request a special permit for something. Please.
Commissioner
It's been a
Barrett.
topic of discussion, believe me.
Thank you. I follow suit with most of my other commissioners, and I also follow suit with a couple of the commissioners on the garage size. I think I have a little more concern over it because of the length. It seems like any other time we've made these variances with garages, we've only let them go up. We don't really let them get much longer. And then, kind of piggybacking what Matt says, then it not only being oversized, it kind of backs up to the other, on both sides. It has a neighbor to the rear and to the side of it. But again, the setting the precedent of having the larger garage, I assume the new construction on the Parish Center will be required to be sprinkled
My understanding is yes.
with the wood. So then I guess my question with this oversized garage with storage and things like that we're hearing lawnmowers and there may be other storage you mentioned, is that something with that type of utility building, would we require that to be sprinkled also?
I don't have an answer for you. I know that the fire department typically looks at what's being stored in there when they decide what the requirements for construction are. And this project at this stage has not been reviewed to that level. The fire department did review this project and gave general comments and looked at, can we get the fire trucks in and pull them around? That will be scrutinized at construction stage, and if required, that would need to be installed.
But again, zoning, everything else, great presentation and great job, doing the fundraising. But overall, I don't like the garage size, so just would I express that today. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Excuse me. I also would like to commend the parish and staff and village attorney for, there's been a great deal, obviously a great deal of work and thought put into this, and I congratulate you. Chris, could you show us there where this signage, electronic signboard's going to be on Linden? Yeah, I just wondering how close to Richmond is it? Oh, it's going to be clear down there. Yeah.
Marquee signage right here. The
All
entrance
right.
to the schools here and that. It would replace that current location.
Frankly, if there were private homes across the street on Linden, this would be too impactful. It wouldn't be workable. With the park over there, the park district and the ball fields, I see.
And Mr. Chairman, I think that based on the existing relationship that Holy Trinity has with the Park District, I mean, these are gem for many, many, many years, that I'm sure that the Park District will want to use that sign, and I'm sure they'll work out whatever they need to work out, but it's gonna be a benefit to the community, because that's the direction of the drop-off is from south to north, and traffic does stop back there, so it's really a good informative piece that's really important for parents of the kids when they drop off things, that they see things and they don't necessarily read the bulletin, you know, coming out of Mass, but, you know, they are gonna see that sign, and folks in town are gonna see the sign on Cass. And that's really the intent. We intend on being good neighbors. We intend on, you know, if there's any issues with lighting and that kind of thing, we're gonna have these abilities to tone it down.
Well,
and work.
my concern was not so much for the light, but the size of the building and the nearness of the building to Linden.
That's
And-
one of
And
those
with the Park
things,
District over
yeah,
there, it
that I had to
becomes, I
toss
think, a
up,
moot
what's the
point.
benefit? And is it better to put it here or move it up closer to Cass? And I just felt that the overall benefits to shift it back really was outweighed. I've tossed many documents over my shoulders, doing it a lot of different ways.
I'm sure.
And I just felt that, you know, even though that this is closer to Linden, it's the best overall solution.
Before I call for a vote, staff, any more comments?
Since we're finishing up on the variance, staff always does go through an exercise with any petitioner when they're asking for a variance to say, is this the best you can do? Can you make it better? And when they do make this request, we say, you might get scrutinized for that. So the petitioner did try to accommodate and said, well, we kind of need it to sit here because it just moves everything in wrong directions. So I just want the commission, because I do have a couple new commissioners, that when someone does come to the village and says, we want to build this and we need a variance, we don't just say, okay, make application. We say, okay, can we meet code? Can we avoid the need for a variance altogether? The second is, can we design this to make it less impactful? The third is, if you say this is the best you can do, we say, well, then it's up to you to figure out if you can get your approval. So we never just accept as presented. And I think Chris can probably find a dozen emails where I said to him or his staff, are you sure you can't move it? Are you sure you can't move it? Are you sure that if you make this request, you might have to give some good justification, so.
And I'll add to that, that's really what goes on behind the scenes. There is a lot of interaction back and forth to come up with the final solution. This is not something that we huddle up and say, this is it. We go through a process, and really village staff, not only Joe, but fire department. You know, the other people on staff have looked at this, the forester, the public works department, the engineer. This is a team play here. This is not something that I'm coming in and I need this density and I need it this way, I need it this way. No, this has been a work in progress now for a while. And I think that I really consider the comments and the staff leaders that we have as part of the design team. And that's really the way we've approached that. And that's how good projects happen, is when you bring all of us together, it ends up being a refinement. And lastly, I'll say that these little tweaks that we have to do, you know, are just that. Because of the complexities of those documents, we need to make a couple of adjustments, and we're gonna do that. We've committed to doing that. We'll get this back to Joe as soon as possible.
I'm curious, just one little thing. Was any consideration given to building a basement in this parish center?
Cost will just not allow it.
That I wondered. Okay. Village attorney, any input?
All set to go?
Well, I think I'm of the opinion we're ready to, I could entertain a vote.
And I'll just give an apology to everyone. We do have to vote on every item individually, so it'll get repetitive.
So first, Chair would entertain a motion to approve a map amendment request to rezone from B1 Limited Business District and R3 Single Family Detached Residence District to R4 General Business or General Residence District.
So move, Van Buren.
Second, Scales.
I have move and second. Discussion of the item. Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Thomas,
Yes.
Commissioner Scales,
Yes.
Commissioner Berry,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Van Buren votes yes, and Chairman Carmichael.
Yes. B, special use permit request for a religious institution.
So move, Scales.
Second, Barry.
Motion said. And a second. Discussion of the motion. Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Scales,
Yes.
Commissioner Berry,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Van Buren votes yes, Commissioner Thomas.
Yes.
And Chairman Carmichael.
Yes. C, a special use permit request for 2 electronic message board signs, which will replace 2 existing monument signs.
So moved, Thomas.
Second, Scales.
Motion and second. Discussion of the item.
Commissioner Berry,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Van Buren votes yes, Commissioner Thomas.
Yes.
Commissioner Scales,
Yes.
and Chairman Carmichael.
Yes. D, a zoning code variance requests to allow existing non-conforming buildings to encroach into front yard, side yard adjoining a street, side yard, and rear yard.
Motion?
Second, Barry.
Motion approved in a second.
Second was
Barry.
Was Barry?
Berry. Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Van Buren votes yes, Commissioner Thomas,
Yes.
Commissioner Scales,
Yes.
Commissioner Berry,
Yes.
and Chairman Carmichael.
Yes. E, zoning code variance request to allow a new parish center to encroach into the rear yard adjoining Linden Avenue.
So move, Barry.
Second, Scales.
Barry and Scales. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Van Buren votes yes, Commissioner Thomas,
Yes.
Commissioner Scales,
Yes.
Commissioner Berry,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
and Chairman Carmichael.
Yes. F, zoning code variance request to increase the maximum allowable size and depth of a detached garage.
So moved, Thomas.
Second, Barry.
Okay, discussion? No? Roll call.
Okay, Commissioner Thomas,
Yes.
Commissioner Scales,
Yes.
Commissioner Berry,
No.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Van Buren votes yes, and Chairman Carmichael.
Yes. G, a preliminary plat of subdivision to consolidate multiple lots.
Mr. Chair, may I interject? This is the motion. We'd ask that you make an amended motion to allow the revisions
On G?
on G.
Okay, so this G would include an amended motion. And that's a preliminary plat of subdivision to consolidate multiple lots.
Motion, go ahead.
Yes, and it should be clear that to allow staff to make and the petitioner to make minor revisions to come into compliance before presentation to the village board.
And that is our amended motion.
Yes, I would ask that that be the amended motion.
Excellent.
Did we
That
have a
need to be restated,
motion?
or-
Do I have a motion?
You could just
Okay, so
second.
moved. Scales.
Second, Barry.
Okay.
Okay, motion,
So motion Scales, second Barry.
okay.
Discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Okay, Commissioner Barry,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Van Buren votes yes, Commissioner Thomas,
Yes.
Commissioner Scales.
Yes.
Okay.
Get it?
Oh,
I didn't
I'm
get a
sorry,
chance to
Chairman
vote.
Carmichael.
Yes. And finally, site and landscaping plan approval. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve, Barry.
Second, Scales.
No discussion? Roll call, please.
Okay, Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Van Buren votes yes, Commissioner Thomas.
Yes.
Commissioner Scales.
Yes.
Commissioner Barry. and
Yes.
Chairman Carmichael.
Yes. H, site and landscaping plan approval.
Van
Motion?
Buren, yes.
I think we did that. Are we on
That's the one.
I next?
We're on-
I apologize. On to the off-site parking lot. We have special use permit request to allow an off-site parking lot that serves the main parish campus.
Okay, so move, Van Buren.
Do I have a
Second, Barry.
Barry,
Van Buren and Barry.
okay.
No discussion, roll call, please.
Okay, Van Buren votes yes. Commissioner Thomas.
Yes.
Commissioner Scales.
Yes.
Commissioner Barry.
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson. And
Yes.
Chairman Carmichael.
Yes.
Okay,
It's a lot of ink.
yeah.
Under J, a preliminary plat of subdivision to consolidate 3 lots. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion, Scales.
Second, Barry.
No discussion, roll call, please.
Okay, Commissioner Scales.
Yes.
Commissioner Barry.
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson.
Yes.
Commissioner Van Buren votes yes, and Commissioner Thomas.
Yes.
And Chairman Carmichael.
Yes. And under K, a site and landscaping plan approval. This is for the off-site parking lot.
So moved, Thomas.
Second, Scales.
Okay, Thomas.
Motion is second. Roll call, please.
Scales. Okay, Commissioner Peterson.
Yes.
Commissioner Barry.
Yes.
Commissioner Scales.
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas.
Yes.
Commissioner Van Buren votes yes, and Chairman Carmichael.
Yes. And our final vote on this issue is under main parish campus and off-site parking lot, a zoning map amendment request to establish a planned development overlay district for all listed properties.
Motion, Scales.
Motion approved, Scales.
Second, Barry.
Second, Barry. Discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Okay, Commissioner Van Buren votes yes, Commissioner Thomas.
Yes.
Commissioner Scales.
Yes.
Commissioner Barry.
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson.
Yes.
And Chairman Carmichael.
Yes. Well, there you have it, sir.
Appreciate your time, and thank you very much for your positive recommendations.
And you'll be notified by staff when you're on schedule to appear before the village board. And thank you, everyone, for coming and supporting this.
Mr. Chair and petitioner. It's anticipated if they get us the revisions as requested, that it would be on the October 6th Village Board agenda, which is at 6 PM.
You copy that? Okay. Good night, Father. Under miscellaneous, our next meeting will be on the second Wednesday of October. That'll be the 12th of October this year. And on the 29th of this month, Commissioner Scales and I will be downtown at the old post office at the Illinois Planning Association Annual Conference. They have a training day that day, and it's always an interesting outing. So we'll report to you about that in the October meeting.
Mr. Chair, I would request politely that a quick summary after that meeting so the other commissioners can understand what you went through and what the benefits or negatives were, because this conference is held every year. And it's a fairly similar session given every year. So if you feel it's worth recommending, to the other commissioners. We always like to hear
So
that.
take notes.
Good point.
Photos, too.
Bullets, I'm doing
Got that,
bullets,
Commissioner
bullet
Scales?
points.
I'm delegating that. Any commissioners have anything else? Anything coming up? Any comments? Then Chair would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion, Scales?
Motion? Second, Thomas. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?